We live in an era of total visibility. Humans have wrapped the Earth in satellites, mapped every landmass in high definition, and connected the most remote corners of the globe to a single digital network. Yet, in the middle of the Bay of Bengal, there is a coordinate that effectively remains dark to our modern sensors. North Sentinel Island is part of the Andaman chain, but it exists under a unique legal status. The Indian government enforces a 5-kilometer exclusion zone around its coast, patrolling the waters to ensure no one approaches the shore. This boundary accounts for a lethal biological reality. While the islanders can kill an intruder with arrows, a visitor carrying a simple cough can end the tribe's entire lineage. North Sentinel Island is a rare instance of government-sanctioned isolation, a high-stakes quarantine maintained in a world otherwise defined by constant movement and contact. These are the Sentinelese. They have maintained a continuous, independent existence on this island for approximately 60,000 years, relying on the same reefs and forests that supported their earliest ancestors. Their survival strategy is defined by a policy of immediate, lethal rejection of any outside contact. In 2006, 2 fishermen accidentally drifted into the island's shallows after their boat's anchor failed. The tribe killed them before they could be rescued. In 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow illegally paid local fishermen to ferry him to the island. He intended to proselytize to the tribe, but he was killed shortly after landing on the beach. This diagram shows how the tribe scavenges the modern world without joining it. When ships wreck on their reefs, the Sentinelese harvest raw iron from the metal hulls to forge sharper, more effective arrowheads. The Sentinelese have successfully managed their own borders for 60 millennia, treating the surrounding ocean as a wall and every intruder as a threat to their sovereignty. This violent history raises a question for the Indian Navy. Why use a modern military to protect a tribe that kills anyone who approaches? This visualization represents epidemiological isolation. Because the Sentinelese have lived apart from global disease pools for thousands of years, they possess no biological defenses against the pathogens we carry. A common virus that causes mild symptoms in a city would act as a lethal agent here. Introducing a single infection could lead to the collapse of the entire population, currently estimated at fewer than 200 people. The naval blockade serves as a biological filter, preventing the accidental introduction of diseases that would erase the tribe's history. Biological threats are not the only challenge to an isolated population. We have to consider how a group without modern technology survives a global-scale natural disaster. In 2004, a massive tsunami devastated the Indian Ocean. The waves leveled coastal cities and killed over 200,000 people across the region. Given the island's low coastline, experts in 2004 feared that the Sentinelese had been completely wiped out by the surge. When the Indian Coast Guard flew a helicopter over the island to look for survivors, a lone warrior emerged on the sand. He aimed his bow at the aircraft and fired, signaling that the tribe had survived the disaster. Their survival suggests that an intimate understanding of the sea's patterns and the island's geography allowed them to endure a catastrophe that devastated modern infrastructure. North Sentinel Island exists in a state of mutual rejection. The tribe guards the beach, and the modern world guards the horizon. Our society is defined by a need to map, categorize, and integrate everything. We struggle to leave any territory unmeasured or any culture uncontacted. The Sentinelese have subsisted on this single plot of land for 60,000 years, outlasting the rise and fall of countless empires while maintaining the same way of life. In a world that demands total access, North Sentinel Island is a reminder that the most sophisticated action we can take is to recognize a boundary and choose to leave it alone.
Look at how we navigate today. Nearly every square inch of the planet is actively tracked and mapped by GPS. GPS, or Global Positioning System, is a satellite-based navigation network that provides location and time information anywhere on Earth. Yet there remains a glaring exception. Tucked away in the Indian Ocean, North Sentinel Island sits entirely disconnected from this global network. For decades, the prevailing narrative painted the island's inhabitants, the Sentinelese, in broad strokes. The outside world viewed them as a violently aggressive people, frozen in the Stone Age. The physical evidence, however, tells a different story. The ideas of absolute technological stagnation and mindless aggression do not align with what has actually happened on their shores. The barrier isolating them from the rest of humanity has been breached. The remnants of those brief encounters leave behind a record of adaptation that challenges our basic understanding of human progress and isolation. Consider their weaponry. A population isolated for millennia should rely exclusively on stone, bone, or wood. Yet the arrows fired from the shores of North Sentinel Island feature intricately crafted metal tips. The source of this metal arrived in 1981, when a massive commercial freighter called the Primrose ran aground on the island's treacherous coral reef. The stranded crew watched in terror from the deck. On the beach, the tribesmen were rapidly constructing dugout canoes to reach the ship. A severe storm intervened, holding the tribe back long enough for a helicopter to evacuate the sailors. The sailors left, but the Primrose remained trapped on the reef. For years, the tribe returned to the massive wreck, scavenging it for materials. Unable to melt the thick hull plating, they taught themselves to cold forge the scavenged steel, repeatedly striking it at room temperature. Through sheer mechanical force, they shaped these rough fragments into razor-sharp arrowheads, tightly binding them to wooden shafts. By extracting steel from a massive cargo vessel and mastering its manipulation, the Sentinelese achieved a technological shift that usually takes civilizations thousands of years. They incorporated the wreckage of a global trade network they didn't even know existed into their primary means of survival. The narrative of unyielding hostility faces a similar contradiction. In 1991, an attempt at contact occurred that deviated entirely from past expeditions. An Indian anthropologist named Madhumala Chattopadhyay discarded the standard tools of exploration. She didn't approach the shoreline carrying a camera or a Bible. She brought only coconuts. The tribesmen reacted by lowering their bows. They waded directly into the shallow water, reaching out to collect the fruit straight from her hands. For a few fleeting moments, the tense, violent standoff that defined decades of interaction vanished. The barrier of isolation dropped, resulting in a completely peaceful exchange. This single exchange proved that the Sentinelese possess a capacity for calculated trust and diplomacy. It suggests that their hostility isn't a mindless instinct, but a deliberate choice. If a peaceful exchange was possible, why did the Indian government and researchers immediately abandon further attempts at connection? In the years following that 1991 encounter, the tribe's behavior shifted sharply. They became increasingly hostile, aggressively repelling any vessels that approached the reef. Researchers realized that physical contact carries a catastrophic biological risk. The tribe lacks immunity to common modern pathogens, meaning even a well-intentioned visit could unleash a deadly epidemic, devastating their population and social structure. For the Sentinelese, peaceful contact is a path to biological extinction. Their hostility isn't just a rejection of the outside world, it is their primary mechanism for remaining alive. The situation on North Sentinel Island presents a complex ethical question. Does the modern world have the right to leave a population entirely alone? Some argue there is a moral obligation to intervene. They believe we should provide uncontacted peoples with access to modern medicine, education, and technologies that could significantly extend their lifespans. This timeline shows a horizontal scale comparing human eras. Opponents argue that forced integration is a form of cultural genocide. This tribe has successfully sustained their society through world wars and the rise and fall of global empires entirely on their own terms. North Sentinel Island stands as a living mirror. It reflects the deeply localized, self-reliant state of human societies long before global connectivity tied the continents together. We live on a hyper-connected planet, driven by an obsession to map, track, and understand every isolated corner. Yet accepting that North Sentinel Island must remain a permanent, unsolved mystery might be the truest act of humanity we can offer them.